1977, and it didn't look like that then. For those of you old enough to remember, 1977 is when Pink Floyd released Animals. Pigs Might Fly, very apposite when you think about it. I really hope you enjoyed the introduction to pensions in video 1, and in video 2 here we've got Molly Chopra and we've got Beth Bird, and we're going to be talking to them about the big bold steps that they've taken to secure their futures, so that as they get to the end of their working life and they want to be able to retire, they actually can without compromises. Any normal person with a decent education and the right guidance can do this. Without further ado, let's go meet the ladies. Beth, lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you, Paul. Thanks for asking me.
Oh, absolute pleasure. How long have you been with Touchstone now?
I've been with you for 22 months.
And if I take you all the way back, not that long, a few years to when you were just leaving school, what did you want to do with your life?
I didn't know what I wanted to do. Generally what happened then was, well, why don't you work in a bank?
Okay.
So unfortunately I did. It was just demoralising for me. I spent 5 years there, and the worst thing in the world for me was to turn up and just work in an office environment day in, day out. I just couldn't do it. One day I just sat at my desk and thought, I can't do this anymore, and I left.
You didn't maybe know it at the time, but you were contributing to a pension scheme.
It was years later when I bumped into someone that I used to work with, and she said, oh Beth, great to see you, and chatting away. And what about your pension? So I said, what pension? And of course I rang them up, and the reason they'd never been able to locate me was obviously because I'd got married and changed my name, and I'd moved house several times, and that pension would have just been lost.
Something I always talk about is transfer value. You can just transfer your existing pensions. In my case, I had a Ford pension, as in motor cars. I had a Cadbury pension, as in chocolate. I had a Whitbread pension, as in beer. 3 companies I worked for. I transferred it all to my private pension. You did something very similar, didn't you, Beth?
I did. So once I knew I'd found this pension, I realised that if I stayed with the bank, I wouldn't have access to it until I was 60.
Yeah.
So I needed to find a way to transfer into a SIP, is what I did.
So a SIP is a self-invested personal pension.
Yeah.
It's just for one person. It doesn't need to be attached for a company. It's really quick to set it up.
I thought I'd be a bit serious,
okay,
and I invested into a commercial. It was a great thing for me to be able to park something in that I didn't know that I'd got, and that now would be safe for me to leave to Theo in the future.
And this is it's a local supermarket, isn't it?
It is. So I bought the commercial building, and it's rented back to a one-stop mini market.
What kind of rent does that give you?
So it gives me, into my pension after fees, just under £20,000 a year.
How much of your time does that actually take?
None at all, because I've got an FRI lease, so a full repair and insuring lease.
Turns out in commercial property, how does this sound, all you residential landlords? Full repairing and insuring. You don't even pay for the insurance, do you?
No, nothing. I say to everyone, and I feel this more so now, is that we all hold our future in the palms of our hands. All our hopes, dreams, aspirations, our vision, everything of what we can aspire to be. And in the palm of my hands, I always visualise the most beautiful butterfly. When people are negative around me, or when self-doubt kicks in, I feel my hands get tighter. That's my wake-up call to relax. Because if I don't, I will crush the butterfly.
Wow.
And if I crush the butterfly, I will crush all my hopes and dreams. And then my hands just open and my butterfly flies.
Love it.
And I follow it because it's leading the way. And that butterfly is just so magical because it's my vision, and it's also is the new me, the best version of me.
Beth, you're amazing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and I love the butterfly stuff. I really do love that butterfly. Let it go. Molly, lovely to see you again.
Thank you, lovely to see you too.
Of the lovely people that I'm talking to for this video series, you're probably the most experienced one in terms of time with Touchstone and commercial property and so on. Before you got into commercial property, which is kind of your specialist subject, you were in IT.
I was, yes.
So when you're an IT contractor, do you get a lot of training on how to do commercial property?
None at all.
None at all?
None at all.
I don't want to spend any time really on your first property because that's well documented. We've done videos on it before. But can we talk about your second and rather larger property? How did you find out about the opportunity?
Again, just through a local agent, they kind of contacted us and said, you know, we've got this property for sale.
Yeah.
It's on for X. And when I looked at it, I thought, well, this thing is big.
The property was on for how much?
1.3 million.
And being from North London, Enfield, you're obviously very wealthy and you've got 1.3 million kicking about.
All.
No? So you didn't have the 1.3 million?
No, I didn't.
So the 1.3 million asking price, what did you end up actually agreeing to pay for it?
We agreed to 935,000.
935,000. So that is a £365,000 reduction.
Yes.
So how much of your money did you use to pay for that?
Nothing. It was a no money down deal for us.
How on earth did you manage that?
So I don't know if you recall some of the conversations you and I had, and when I used to come to you and say, Paul, I just don't understand how I'm going to fund my next deal. And you always said to me, Molly, if you find the right deal, the money will come. And it did.
So for anybody out there thinking, well, I don't know what I'm doing, I'll learn what to do. For anybody out there thinking, oh, that's expensive, learn how to negotiate. And for anyone out there that's thinking, well, I'd love to do this, but I haven't got any money, that's a £1 million, well, 935,000, let's call it $1 million between friends, building that Molly's used none of her own money.
Where it is, it's actually in a city centre. So we've understood what the local regeneration plan is, been okayed with Heritage for 12 apartments.
The 12 apartments, they're going to be quite big.
Yes. They're between two, we've got a couple of ones in there, we've got 2 and 3 bedroom apartments there.
Right. What's the GDV?
It's 4 million.
4 million. When it came to that part, I've done all the work, I've done the conversion, I, me. But we're taught not to collaborate, aren't we? And the thing that always made me hesitate is at the end of a project, the idea of writing £1 million cheque and giving it to somebody else. Are you okay with that?
Because I also write a cheque to myself.
I love it.
For the same amount, so actually.
I didn't learn that lesson for, well, far too many years. But when I did, it unlocked everything for me. Dead straight face, you're sitting there telling me that you put 12 apartments in there, you're going to make £1 million.
Yes.
IT specialist, no previous experience of commercial property, and in one deal for which she put no money down of her own, she's already making £76,000 a year of rent. And as soon as she's got that development done, her share of the profit is £1 million. Beth, her first commercial property, is now earning her £20,000 a year, and she's using a pension that she forgot she had. And if you want to be the next Beth, if you want to be the next Molly, I want to talk to you some more about commercial property. Hello, Neal. Thank you for spending some time with me. Would you mind just introducing yourself to everybody and tell me a bit about your company and a bit about your background?
No problem at all, Paul. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Neal Griffin. I'm an independent financial advisor based with Sterling House Financial Services. I've been an IFA now for approaching 20 years, and I've been in the financial services industry approaching about 35, to be honest.
If it's okay with you, if we just focused on SIPs and SASs, because the reason I'm so fascinated by SIPs and SASs as a property person is that both a SIP and a SAS can directly invest in commercial property.
Yeah.
If I had a final salary scheme or a defined benefit, defined contribution scheme, and let's say I'd built up a pension pot, a cash equivalent transfer value of £500,000. Let's say I'd done that over my career, and I retired at the age of 60. The vast majority of those schemes, if I passed away at the age of 61, if I've nominated somebody else, like my wife or someone, they would typically get half of the pension that I was receiving for that first year. And then typically when they pass away, that entire scheme goes to nothing. There's nothing to pass on to the children. Is that fair, or is that true?
I'd always say that every sort of defined benefit scheme is slightly different, but I guess the theory behind that I wouldn't disagree with. There are some potential pros and cons to that, depending upon your own personal situation, family and financially.
There are probably more people in defined contribution schemes than there are that don't have a pension at all. So that's the biggest group of people are saving some money every month into their pension scheme. They're getting the tax relief. Their employer is topping that up with some sort of money. They get to retirement age, 60, 65, whatever it might be, 67, some people. They've now got this pot of money. The people that I talk to, most people end up with an annuity of some sort. You're giving up your entire pension pot. You're buying an annuity. So you don't have a pension pot anymore. You're surrendering your pension pot in exchange for a flow of money. And that flow of money is dramatically impacted when you die, potentially stops if it's a single life. Perhaps the partner would get half what they were getting. And then when the partner passes away, it's all gone. There's nothing to pass on to the children.
Well, on a limited basis, fixed term annuities do exist, and I do those from time to time. And it's basically, we're just looking at a relatively short period of time. Clients want to come out of the market, or we're covering a period of time between early retirement and the arrival of state pension, for example.
Yeah.
So in that instance, you can take a pot of money and say, for the next 5 years, I'd like X per annum. And in the end of 5 years, there's still a value, a maturity value that's available to them to do whatever they wish. So it could be another fixed term annuity, it could be a lifetime annuity, it could be a return to the personal pensionary, if you like, and investing your funds accordingly.
£1 million in the world of commercial property. Within the Touchstone community, I would feel embarrassed if I couldn't generate 10% as a return in through commercial property. Well, 10% of $1 million is 100,000 a year. So 24,000 is 2.4% on $1 million. And it sounds like a lot, but for me, I don't know what I would do to myself if my commercial properties were giving me 2.4%.
I would always emphasise the point that everyone's different, but one of the key questions is when it comes to retirement and also what happens to your assets ultimately, it's, well, what do you want to happen?
Yeah, of course.
First and foremost. And you say, well, I'm going to stay in commercial property and I expect it to generate 10%. Then I say, well, okay, well, that's your call, but I need to point out the pros and the cons to that.
Of course.
And so, you know, my job is to make sure that, again, as we've said throughout this, it's about understanding what you do and potential consequences of things going a bit awry.
One of the things that I love about a SAS in particular is that a SAS is a trust and therefore it's not subject to inheritance tax. Do most people know that, or is that new information to most people?
It does come as a surprise to most clients, you know, where that sits when it comes to the likes of inheritance tax plan.
Yeah.
And also, you know, going to your point about people's concerns that they leave a company, they lose that particular pension benefit, and say, no, it's still there. And until you use it, in some ways, it can act as an insurance plan because it's a pot of money that's available to your beneficiaries. Equally as important is its treatment in other areas of taxation. And so, yeah, a SAS. And particularly the discussions that we've been having around small companies, family members being involved as well. It has a role to play in tax planning, you know, going forwards as well.
And in terms of, you know, things to definitely be avoided, I think we've heartily agreed on the fact that the number one thing to be heartily avoided is sticking your head in the sand and hoping it'll all be all right. So as an individual, you shouldn't do that. You should get the right advice, you should get the right education, and you should regularly review your pension.
Well, absolutely. I think it's always a case, particularly when you're coming up to retirement. You know, you want every person who is and they've got a pension pot to just say stop. What I've got in front of me is only potentially one set of options that I have, and I need to take advice before I take the plunge, so to speak. It might be the right thing to do, but it might not, and there might be something that's more beneficial to you and your family.
Okay, so that just about wraps up video number 2 in this 3-part series. We've heard from Beth Bird and Molly Chopra about how they've completely transformed what their retirement would have looked like by using a SIP and a SAS. You also then heard from the IFA into the more technical aspects of what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do with your own pension. So if, like me, you believe that as a responsible person, it's critical that you sort out your own retirement, not only for you, but for your loved ones, perhaps your partner, perhaps your children. All of these people are depending on you to make the correct financial choices. So I'd like to invite you to further educate yourself and give yourself more options in video number 3, because we're going to be pulling all of this together so that you can make the right choice for you. And I really do hope you're a long way down the educational path, or a lot further down the educational path than you were when you very first tuned in to episode number 1. So once again, my name is Paul Smith. I look forward to seeing you in video number 3.